Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch podcast brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap here with the Trashman on the day after, the day of the fallout of the first round of the 2020 NFL Draft. We've been waiting for it for a long time. We have a ton to get to. A bunch of these guys finally have homes, and we can dissect landing spots. A ton more to get to tonight. We'll have a live stream here on YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, if you could give us if you could click subscribe and also write a comment. We've heard it helps with the algorithms, and so we definitely appreciate that. Not that we don't want to hear your comments, but
preferably a positive one.
I don't care. You can tell it. You can tell us. You can make fun of Trashman's hat, or you can make fun of my hat.
Make fun of it. This hat is great.
I think that hat belongs in the trash can. So it was a big first round last night, Trashman. We still have a lot of great players left to go in rounds 2 and rounds 3, but as far as what we saw last night, let's just take it from the very top. Of course, with the first pick, let me just go through the fantasy relevant picks, and you can give me your quick hits and your quick thoughts. Then we'll go through. We'll kind of rank them. Michael Yeager is saying the Trashman is suave and handsome. That's ridiculous.
Hey, he's got good taste.
Joe Burrow to the Cincinnati Bengals. We all knew it was going to happen. Are you going to have him in any of your trashy leagues next year, Trashman? You know that I love Joe Burrow. I think we've talked about how much this is going to help Joe Mixon. Not only that, but also getting Jonah back from last year. That's like an extra first round pick as well. You get Joe Burrow, you get a elite tackle talent like Jonah from last year out of Alabama. What do you think? Joe Burrow, his effect on the Bengals?
Honestly, it's kind of 50-50 for me. I didn't really, looking into it yesterday, I didn't really realize he was basically a 1-year stud. Like, he doesn't have, it's really uncanny. The year that he had, arguably one of the best years for a quarterback in college football history, but
I've seen it live and up close. He's an alpha.
It's really just that last year.
I'm not worried. He is a 1-year wonder, though, and I wonder how you let him get out of the state of Ohio. But he was there at Ohio State. They
didn't want him.
Well, that's how. The guy in front of him is a pro right now who sucks. But right? Look, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be transformative for the Bengals franchise. I think it's Superflex Dynasty leagues. We're going to talk about this later, Trashman. I'm not sure in Superflex Dynasty leagues he could still be in play for the first overall pick in your Dynasty rookie drafts. So much is going to depend on once we get to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and we talk about that and what possible landing spots could come later on here in the second and the third rounds for the Jonathan Taylors, for the DeAndre Swifts, for the J.K. Dobbins and some of these guys. But Joe Burrow he'll be fantasy relevant, whether he's a streaming option or whether you pick him up late in your fantasy drafts next year. I think he's going to be one of these guys that could, back into quarterback 1 by the end of the season if he gets a whole healthy season. And he's a G and he's an alpha. I'm not sure Tua Tagovailoa, who went to the Miami Dolphins at pick 5, whether he's going to even play next year. Do you think they're going to redshirt him, or what do you think the plan is?
I think they should redshirt him, whether they will or not. That's the big question.
Right. They didn't. They got Austin Jackson out of USC, so they're trying to beef up that offensive line a little bit as well. You come out of this thing with a guy who you can, Julian Davenport clearly was not going to get it done for them at the left tackle position. You come out of this draft with the possible left tackle of the future if you believe in him, and then Tua. I couldn't believe it because yesterday I was listening to Mike Lombardi's podcast, the GM Shuffle, where he said, Tua has, with the way that New England does their grading system, and I know that Miami is not New England, but you have Chris Greer, you have Brian Flores, 2 New England guys, right? You figure they probably use the same grading system as Belichick. Michael Lombardi helped Belichick come up with their grading system during the time that they were in Cleveland. He said, with Tua, not only do you have he said you put letters up next to their names, like on the big board. And he said with Tua, not only you have a letter next to his name for his puny size, but you have a letter next to his name for his injuries, for the red flags, and you have a letter next to his name for his speed, because he didn't test. And anytime you have 3 letters next to your name in a Belichick system for his big board, you can't have a grade any higher than 62. And what that means to me, a 62, that it doesn't mean shit, right? It's arbitrary. But he went on to say, there's no way that you could spend a top 10 pick on a guy that you have graded as a 62. And so I managed to fuck up my mock draft that would have won the Huddle Report competition yesterday, finally, by having a last minute swindle and realizing that the draft is not realizing my own knowledge, and that knowing the draft is a flat circle. And of course, Miami's going to take fucking Tua, because that's always going to always happen anyway. And there's shit.
Second guess yourself. It's like taking out that guy in the playoffs that
Sunday
you should have him, and then you had him in there up until
you had him in all week.
11:45.
You get some fucking report about how there's going to be wins. It's just like it is. It's the same. Like I had my mock correct, and I switched it at the very end after hearing that shit from Michael Lombardi. But it's just coming to a harebrained conclusion.
Swindled yourself.
What I should have thought about is that I don't know. It's just
they didn't want to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. So I don't think Tua is going to be fantasy relevant this year. I think at Dynasty Superflex, he's a guy that you might look at is getting a discount on, and taking a redshirt season with him. But there's some really good. It's gonna be hard parsing out these wide receivers, Trash Man. I'm really interested to hear how you do it. And we're gonna have some running backs coming down the pike, here tonight, that are gonna be really interesting to discuss as well. Justin Herbert,
and more wide receivers. Maybe my favorite wide receiver.
He could play.
Arguably.
This next quarterback that went off the board to the Chargers, Justin Herbert, all Senior Bowler for RosterWatch.com on our 2020 10th annual All Senior Bowl team. Trash Man, do you what do you think about your boy Anthony Lynn saying that Tyrod Taylor is not a bridge quarterback, and then going out and doing this? Of course he's a bridge quarterback. That's all he's ever been. That's all he is.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was maybe they saw, maybe he was their best player on the board at that time. But yeah, it's all double speak these days. You go by what they do, not what they say.
Yeah. Well, clearly.
Although I don't know, Herbert, it's interesting. Like they're saying like he doesn't necessarily have the personality to be a leader in the locker room, and we'll see.
Fine. He's fine. I've been around him. His personality's fine. He has a good personality. I like him.
Well, they say that he's somewhat introverted.
Well, he gave us a Roster Watch ID.
Well, that's something.
Anybody who does that, I'm going to be a big fan of. I don't think he's going to be particularly fantasy relevant this next year. Certainly not as much as Joe Burrow, but I think it's Superflex redraft leagues and certainly Superflex Dynasty. Herbert's a guy maybe you can look at in the second, late second round or something like that. Probably around the same time you would be interested in taking Tua.
Well, hey, not as bad as Jordan Love.
Yeah. We'll talk about Jordan Love whenever we get there, but let's continue moving down the list here. The first wide receiver off the board, the first skill position player off the board. I could not believe it. Not that I could believe it. I'd said the whole time that Henry Ruggs could go first, but just the fact that he got to go to the Las Vegas Raiders, the first pick of the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, Al Davis the ghost of Al Davis doing cartwheels.
That's
holy shit, right?
Thought.
So talk about Henry Ruggs to the Raiders.
I honestly
and not Jeudy and not Lamb. It's Henry Ruggs.
I wanted to play maybe some musical chairs with some of these guys where they were drafted, but I guess it kind of makes sense. For me, it just makes me believe that they believe in Renfro.
Oh, Trash Man! What does it make you say that? It makes me say that they need their own fucking Tyreek Hill. They need their own Tyreek Hill in that division.
Well, I thought they would have somebody who they would have, I thought a CeeDee Lamb would be a perfect fit.
So did I.
For the Raiders.
So did I. Jeudy. Right?
Yeah. I just feel like Ruggs is more, and maybe I'm wrong. I think he's more of I wouldn't say a complimentary wide receiver, but just like,
Byron, you're saying he's more of a scheme guy. You think he's more of a scheme guy.
Yeah.
He's going to open things up for everybody else with his speed. And here's my question. Why is everybody so stuck on this fucking narrative that Henry Ruggs is only a scheme guy who's going to open up things for other players? Why can't Henry Ruggs? Henry Ruggs, I think, was taken number 12 overall, trash man, by the Las Vegas Raiders. He's their number one wide receiver.
I think maybe there's some recency bias with John Ross kind of having a similar profile. People, he bolted up the charts because he was, the speed guy. And that's just that's mainly because that's what we were introduced to Ruggs as. There wasn't really a lot of narrative about Ruggs until he ran that 40. And so I think
besides
him getting above the rim,
Well, no, Jim Nagy even said back at the Senior Bowl that Henry Ruggs is your wide receiver one for the class. So it's like, to me, I don't understand how everybody won't just say, like, look, this wide receiver core for the Raiders sucks. It's Tyrell Williams. It's Hunter Renfrow. They had Keelan fucking Doss and these other assholes like Seth Roberts still on the team last year.
Seth Roberts, man. He's on. He managed to be the third receiver for about 5 different teams now.
Right. Regardless, they've spent a top 12 pick right now on Henry Ruggs the third, or is it Henry Ruggs Jr.? I think it's the third. Henry Ruggs the third, who was wearing a bathrobe last night.
An Old Spice bathrobe, no less.
He is their wide receiver one. He's their future star. They want to get him the football. They want to get him not just deep, but they want to get it all over the football field. They want him in. They want him in space. They want him in crossing routes. They want him in digs. They want him in posts. They are going to use him like a number one wide receiver. They feel like they have their Tyreek Hill, their answer within the division to Tyreek Hill. He's the number one wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. I understand that the quarterback situation isn't necessarily great, right? But
that's what I judge these wide receivers by ultimately.
All right, fine. Then I don't want to hear shit from you about Jerry Jeudy that we can talk about here in a second. So let's just talk about Jerry Jeudy, who now joins Drew Lock and Courtland Sutton with the Denver Broncos at 15. His teammate, obviously more productive in college. So what do you think about the Jerry Jeudy pick? Jerry Jeudy certainly doesn't walk into the massive void that Henry Ruggs walks into. And to me, it's like, why don't people like, just because Henry Ruggs wasn't as productive in college as Jerry Jeudy, you guys tell me this about Alabama. Whoever says this, you go look at Damian Harris versus Josh Jacobs at Alabama from just last season. If all we care about is their usage at the University of Alabama under Nick Saban, and go back and listen to what Nick Saban said about the fact that Josh Jacobs didn't get the usage of Damian Harris and exactly why. Now, were we tripping over our feet to go out and get Damian Harris over Josh Jacobs in fantasy last year? No. We were tripping over our feet to go get the guy that Mayock knew was better. Maybe Mayock, once again, knows which Alabama player is better. He's the number one wide receiver for the Raiders. There's absolutely nothing between now and the NFL season starting that is going to make anybody but Henry Ruggs III the number one wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. And he has 4.27 speed, and the draft capital basically says that he's going to get the football. If they don't give him the football, they're going to say, "What, you fucking drafted this guy just so you can get the ball to Hunter Renfrow? That kid looks like my grown son's fucking roommate at college."
I don't hate where Jeudy went, just because I feel like Ruggs, like, he is the player who can do everything. I think Jeudy, basically, he can play that possession receiver. He can be that for the Broncos, and I think Locke needs somebody who we could dump it off to short and could do work with it, and somebody who can run routes really well. because maybe the quarterback's not going to be helping him that much in that department. So I feel like it was a decent landing spot for Jeudy. I feel like in PPR he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I get it. We've had the discussion with Byron about there's a text discussion or this morning and everything. And for everybody who might be joining us on YouTube, make sure and subscribe if you can. You can also subscribe to the RosterWatch podcast on Apple Podcasts. But we'll be going on. Byron and I will be going on for a live stream during round 2, sometime during round 2 tonight, and just getting on here and talking shit. So we'll make sure to put that out on the podcast feed too. But if you want to just kind of hang out with us for a second screen experience and join us as we're kind of enjoying the draft, just make sure you subscribe here and you'll get notifications to that. The next pick, Trashman. Speaking of, if there would have been a second screen experience with you yesterday, would have been backflip after backflip after backflip at pick 17. Huh? What if they wouldn't have taken CeeDee Lamb? Your Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, honestly, when I saw that Lamb was still available, it started to click for me, but it wasn't something I was really thinking about would be a possibility up until that point. Up until I saw Jerry in his yacht with his landline phone with the pigtail coming out the bottom of it.
Smiling like the cat that just ate the canary. Whenever he was smiling so much like that, you knew he wasn't smiling that much for some center or some second tier cornerback. He was.
He knew he got sick. He knew he did. He knew he got as sick as he could in the draft, taking arguably the best, our number one, the best consensus in the draft. CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb's a disgusting man. He's a disgusting man. It's just too good. I mean, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott.
I mean, that one pick arguably makes they might have the best wide receiving core, arguably the best wide receiving core in the NFL right now.
There isn't a question. Who, you just say the Tampa Bay, maybe just because they have Godwin
I was gonna say you could argue Tampa Bay.
I mean, it's pretty. I think it's pretty obvious that it's Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup. Maybe you guys can let us know in the chat if there's somebody who you think would be better, and we'll read them off. We're gonna rank these guys up, Trashman. But first, let's go through the rest of the fantasy fallout here. We had Jalen Reagor at 21, just as I had pegged to the Philadelphia Eagles. Trashman, I also had CeeDee Lamb to the Cowboys in my mock, believe it or not. So you might not have been thinking it. I was certainly thinking it.
I mean, as a Cowboys fan, you always know that Achilles heel is a defense, and they've lost good secondary players. So
it was just so good to take him there. Like the cornerback fall off had already occurred after Jeffrey Okudah and CJ Henderson. The edge rusher fall off had already occurred. Like maybe they could have gone safety. I think
that's when
Xavier McKinney still on the board. Maybe
together.
Yeah. It's just whenever you've done enough of these mocks, you figure if CeeDee Lamb is there and things fall like you think they're going to fall, they're going to take CeeDee. And they totally did. Okay, so Jalen Reagor to Philly. This to me was awesome.
Honestly,
everybody thought they were going to take Justin Jefferson, but what? You think
honestly, I think he's arguably in the best position out of any of those wide receivers if we're talking about where he landed and the opportunities he'll have.
Well, all right. So and based on talent, let's talk about it from a dynasty perspective. Do you think Jalen Reagor should be the first wide receiver? We're not even going to talk about it yet because let's talk about how we're going to rank them up after we go through them all. But you really think that because there's been talk about that on Twitter. People are saying that there's an argument to maybe have Jalen Reagor as wide receiver 1 for dynasty. I'm not sure I'm sold on it. Byron will not be sold on it. He's staunch in his opinions about that. And we'll talk about that tonight on the stream. But I just said, look, Philly, this is better than Justin Jefferson, because Justin Jefferson, it didn't really make as much sense to me, because they already have Dallas Goedert, they have Zach Ertz, they have these guys. These are dudes that run these intermediate routes, and Justin Jefferson is such a slot guy, and you have Alshon that can't move around much anymore. I think is Nelson Aguilar still even on contract? Like, he's definitely a slot, but it's like with those two tight ends that you have, it's like you're starting to really crowd up the middle of the field there. And now the discussion becomes, can Justin Jefferson play outside? I mean, Jalen Reagor is going to take the top off anytime you want him to. And Deshaun Jackson's always going to be hurt. So I thought it was awesome. I thought it made a lot more sense. Then we get to pick 22. The Vikings did take Justin Jefferson. And so now I'm interested to see how you feel here, Trash Man, because it's kind of like that with the Vikings too. Because what are they? I mean, are they going to play him outside? Are they going to play Thielen outside?
Right.
Irv Smith is a guy they want to get more involved.
Out of the slot.
So I'm not sure.
Basically, I think they're very similar, kind of in the way that, and very kind of similar receivers. Jefferson and Thielen, and maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe it's like two Thielens. What could be better? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they end up playing primarily out of the slot there in Minnesota. I didn't think it was a perfect fit, but I mean, Thielen's a versatile guy, so I think they'll figure it out.
To the San Francisco 49ers, we had Brandon Aiyuk go at pick 25. And it's actually funny. I saw on Twitter today that we saw that at pick 26, that was originally held by Miami. That was the pick where the Green Bay Packers traded up to get Jordan Love. The San Francisco 49ers heard they needed to get in front of Miami because Miami wanted Brandon Aiyuk. So they got ahead of Miami. Once the 49ers took Brandon Aiyuk, Miami traded out to the Green Bay Packers because they couldn't get their guy anymore, which is pretty interesting. You weren't as high on Brandon Aiyuk as Byron and I in our rookie rankings that came out yesterday at rosterwatch.com. But what do you think about his fit here? He's like another one of these guys that he can play anywhere. Just like it's fun. Jalen Hurd can play X. He could play.
It's a bunch of tweeners there. A bunch of tweeners there.
Debo can. Aiyuk can. Well, I think Shanahan likes that. Now does this spell curtains for all my Jalen Hurd love?
I don't think so. For me, and to his credit, Aiyuk, he kind of got lost in the shuffle when I was arranging those guys. It wasn't so much that I didn't like him so much as I liked some other guys. Yeah, we're having Michael Yeager in the tweet, man. He's doing a tweet storm here, but it's true. Like Aiyuk, Debo, and Hurd's pretty. That's a sick trio too. I don't think it's quite Gallup, Lamb, and Amari, but it's a good wide receiver. Hey, these are receivers that are going to be good for a middling quarterback, which Jimmy Garoppolo might be. Right. But it feels like things are going to be spread out there, especially with the running backs to catch the football and most importantly, George Kittle. It's a team that'll it's a short passing game for Garoppolo. It's going to be able to dump it off. Well, that's how Aiyuk wins. Work. After catch. Exactly. He wins with an 81-inch wingspan, and he wins with run after catch ability. And I think it was a shrewd move. It's a sneaky good pick, and we should have been listening to all the NFL types telling us that Brandon Aiyuk is going to go a lot higher than you guys think. Ended up going higher than N'Keal Harry last year. So that ended up to be right. Another Jim Nagy tidbit that ended up being right. Speaking of Jim Nagy, he of course is the Senior Bowl director that invited Jordan Love to the Senior Bowl this year to the Green Bay Packers. I don't think we need to talk about Jordan Love unless you want to talk about whether that tilted Aaron Rodgers or not. Do you think it bugs him that they drafted his heir apparent? He needs a fire under him. He needs a fire under him. He can be emotional at times. All right, here's the big one. In the past, we have seen in the past few years that Aaron Rodgers has gotten hurt, and the quarterbacks that they've had to come in for him have sucked. And I think it's good for them to have.
That'll be the case with Jordan Love this year if he has to play. I think.
Well, and the thing is, the Packers are always contenders, so I feel like they need to get somebody who could, in a pinch, win games for them and keep them in the hunt if Rodgers was to go down for any reason.
God, I was hoping they were trading up for Denzel Mims.
That would have been sick.
It would have gotten me too sick. Finally, and this was the one that I was tied in the Huddle Report rankings until the guy who beat me with the 32nd pick, he had chosen Clyde Edwards-Helaire to go to the Kansas City Chiefs of all goddamn
It's a perfect
people.
fit. It's a perfect fit.
Well, my question is now, we've already talked about it. It's a perfect fit. We have Andy Reid. Saying, or Brett Veach talked about it last night with reporters saying, like,
remind him of Brian Westbrook.
Yeah, and then Andy Reid agreed. Then Andy Reid went home and got sick on his tape and came back and said, "You know what?
Said he's better.
He's better." How about your boy Damian Williams? You've always been you've always been the Damian Williams whisperer. I'm being serious. Is this something where it's going to have to be a committee to start, or does Clyde just come in and just take over because he is tailor made for the offense?
I think it'll be a committee. I do.
The whole season.
Why not? I feel like
Clyde's so much better.
I feel like there were times though in Philly when Reid was there where he had a couple running backs who were good at different things. It could be like a bigger Darren Sproles, I think you could get two running backs active and fantasy productive there in Kansas City. I think it's a perfect offense to have two productive backs there.
I think Damian Williams is completely fucked, and so are his fantasy owners and his best ball owners, his dynasty owners, everything. Like he's gonna have a precipitous fall in ADP. He is going to lose a job. They're already sending out Clyde. You don't spend a first round pick on a running back and don't use him unless you're the fucking Seattle Seahawks.
No, I think they'll use him. But if last year was any indication, they're gonna need more than one reliable running back.
Right. Once Clyde gets hurt, right? But he's gonna add such a dimension of excitement to that offense. It's perfect. It's the absolute nuts. It's the absolute nuts. He's not only a really good player, but he's the perfect stylistic fit for the offense. It's a team that's one of the most efficient and highest scoring in the league. And this team has now spent first round draft capital on him and made him the first running back off the board in this terrific draft class. It's the perfect storm. And so right now, if we were just setting up a dynasty one quarterback rookie draft, I don't even think we need to argue that Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be the 1-0-1 over all these wide receivers, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
We don't even need to talk about that. Okay, so now the question becomes, before we try and get these receivers in order and then get out of here, does that mean that we are in a spot where tonight another guy can overtake Clyde, or is Clyde the 101 regardless? Because his landing spot was so good. Now, what if we could get Jonathan Taylor to the Bucs or to the Dolphins, or DeAndre Swift or J.K. Dobbins to one of those spots?
I think whoever lands on the Dolphins could be the guy.
I think that's the only out. I think if one of those no, I don't think if Eno Benjamin or something goes to the Dolphins, or if Cam Akers goes to the Dolphins, I would put him ahead of Clyde. I think if Jonathan Taylor went to the Bucs or the Dolphins, maybe the same with Swift. Maybe, but boy, it's just so hard to get away from the sexiness of being attached to Patrick Mahomes and that offense and all the PPR points you just want to soak up from Clyde, that was the most prolific pass catching back of all these guys last year. I feel like
if somehow maybe the Texans draft somebody who could potentially overtake DJ there.
Yeah. It's going to be hard. And make sure to tune into the stream tonight. Please subscribe here on YouTube. If you could leave a comment for us here underneath, it would really help out with the robots and the fucking AI behind the scenes that runs the various algorithms and does all the evil shit you hear about in the news. Let's see. All right, the wide receivers. This isn't going to be popular for Dynasty, Trashman, and I'm not sure this is going to be the same for a redraft, but we've never been ones to, bow down to any kind of groupthink. I hear I hear the Jalen Reagor talk. I get it. But for me at the top, if I'm taking Indies, I'm taking Dallas Cowboys CeeDee Lamb. I don't give a shit. Michael Gallup, people are going to say that it's Amari Cooper, it's Gallup, it is CeeDee Lamb, right? Too many mouths to feed. I understand. Byron and I were texting about this earlier. Like I just said, are you worried about too many mouths to feed? And what he said is exactly perfectly right, of course. And he said, what did he say? Yeah, Michael Gallup can't hold CeeDee Lamb's fucking jockstrap, and it's true. It's true. There's also the fact that CeeDee Lamb comes in there. CeeDee Lamb versus cornerback 2s and 3s in the National Football League. It's over. It's over. It really is over. If Michael Gallup is able to do that against cornerback 2s and 3s, CeeDee Lamb is going to do that against 2s and 3s. John M on the YouTube chat is asking if Gallup is screwed. Of course he's screwed. He's been over a barrel, screwed beyond belief. CeeDee Lamb's is in his wide receiver room now. Of course, yes. He's completely swindled. He's fucked. Yes, he is.
I don't know that he's screwed. I feel like basically either Lamb or Cooper, who ends up playing the slot more there, is going to basically be, Dallas is tight end. I think basically negates their need to have any sort of talent at the tight end position.
CeeDee Lamb. Dak is going to go bananas, trash man. You're going to be so happy to be a Cowboys fan watching that offense next year.
And then watching the defense not be able to stop it.
Yeah, and
they're going to have to outscore teams. They're going to have to outscore people. And
Garrett might not like Garrett. It won't be. Or I'm not. Since Garrett is no longer there, McCarthy might not be a Garrett as far as fucking up these games at the very end with the game management. Like maybe he'll just let things be. Okay. So do you agree that it isn't cocky maybe to have CeeDee Lamb as the wide receiver 1 for Dynasty? Because they can let Amari Cooper go in 2021 and get like CeeDee Lamb's going to be the number 1 wide receiver for Dallas for the next 5 years. Or he'll be a 1B for 2 years, and then he'll be the number 1 for the next 3. And then they'll have a 5th-year option on him in the last one. Then they could franchise him or pay him. But they can get out of Amari's deal in 2021.
And as a dynasty pick, I'm not
saying for redraft. I'm just having to put together the skeleton of the dynasty cheat sheet. So as I'm putting together the skeleton, I'm just thinking about it. Okay. After that, to me, logic tells me that you're not going to like this. But after I've already talked about Ruggs. He's the wide receiver 1. He's the wide receiver 1 off the board. If they're going to use him like a Tyreek Hill, I find more value in that considering all the targets that he's going to be soaking up compared to what Jerry Jeudy is going to have to siphon off from
He's got very different quarterback talent than Kansas City does, though.
Of course he does. But so does Denver.
Hey, and that's why I thought Reagor, arguably to me, had the best situation to be in. At least off the bat.
I've talked about this with Byron, and Byron says there's no way we're getting Jalen fucking Reagor ahead of Jerry Jeudy in Dynasty. Like Jerry Jeudy's a guy that you want to own long term in Dynasty. He's so good. They're outside of Amari Cooper, Jeudy and Lamb we've been doing this a long time, Trash Man. They're the 2 best wide receiver prospects since the 2014 class outside of Cooper. Like you want those guys in Dynasty. Like you want them for a long time in Dynasty. You want Odell Beckham for all this time. You want Mike Evans for all this time. Like it's just, you do. And I think Jalen Reagor.
For me, it's having the quarterback, it's having Wentz, it's having the offense that likes to throw the ball a lot. It's having the opportunity that he has there. He doesn't really. Who does he have in front of him?
I get it. And he was drafted for a reason. I know Phillies fan. I wonder what Eagles. Let's see. What is Eagles?
Yeager was saying they hate it.
Oh, really? Jeez, why do you hate getting Jalen Reagor? He's unbelievable. Like, it's an unbelievable pick.
I just think he just wasn't talked about quite as much as some of those other guys.
That's one of those deals where they fucking booed J.J. Watt down in Houston whenever he got his name called. And it's like they'll look like donks later on. Let's see. Yeah, I know you don't hate him, Eagles fan. I'm saying I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people crowing in Philly about that not being a good pick. I think it's a better pick for what they're trying to do than Justin Jefferson was. Speaking of that, I think that it's a tough. I mean, what about between Justin Jefferson and Brandon Aiyuk? We can work out, and you guys can find it all at rosterwatch.com. Well, probably by Monday, we'll have the Dynasty rookie cheat sheet up and the best ball cheat sheet updated to version 2.0, which will be like the fifth update since the end of February, and it'll be a big update. So make sure and keep your eyes out for that. But we're gonna have to talk with Byron. We'll probably talk some more on the stream tonight about this whole Reagor thing and where he fits in among Jeudy and Ruggs and everything like that. Also, whether we can keep it feasible to keep CeeDee Lamb at first for Dynasty. I don't think it'll be. I'm not sure he's going to be first for redraft. It almost feels like Ruggs should be for redraft. It's all things we have plenty of time to discuss. You guys will be able to follow along.
Right. Hey, the draft's not over. The draft's not over.
Yeah, but it's going to be hard to get better. It's just like we talked about with Clyde.
Mims is the wild card.
Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, Mims can still go to the Packers, and all of a sudden we're saying, well, this kid. Okay, Justin Jefferson and Brandon Aiyuk, trash man. How do you see those? How do you see those guys?
I mean, I feel like as a receiving prospect, I like Aiyuk a little bit more, but I like Jefferson's spot. I think he's the number 2 there in Minnesota right off the bat, and they're gonna throw the ball more often than the 49ers are. It's gonna be if he doesn't have bigger games than Aiyuk, he'll have more consistent games than Aiyuk, in my opinion. I feel like Aiyuk, it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit harder to determine, when he's going to pop off. I think that than someone like a Jefferson, who I think is going to be a weekly guy you can plug and play in PPR format.
All right, perfect. I think we can end it there. That's a good place to end it. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We really appreciate it for all the comments and everything like that. If you could just comment underneath the video, please leave us a comment. Our robot genius overlords gets them super happy in their tiny little robot pants. I mean, fired up. So if you guys could leave comments, subscribe. Of course, if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. We're trying to get these out as much as we can to make sure you have the content you need to dominate in fantasy football, as always, and get you through these days. So for the Trash Man, I'm Alex. Love y'all. We'll see you next time. Peace.